All right. Hello, everybody. As promised, a live show coming at you this Thursday. Very special guest. Glad to have him on the show. We're going to be talking everything wide receivers, and that is Aaron Larson, man. Aaron, glad to have you on the show, man. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, good to be here. Glad I got a chance to do this. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, wide receivers, man. We've been kind of talking a little bit, showing some stats and so forth. But before we get too far into that, where can people find you? What do you specialize in? I see that you're a teacher and a coach. If you'd like to talk about that as well, and what makes you love football? Just kind of all that.
Yeah, man. What makes me love football? It's been part of my life for most of my life. Back to playing when I was younger and coached it for a long time. I don't coach it anymore. Just it's kind of a little bit too much. But yeah, I'm a teacher. Out here in Wisconsin, we start a little bit later than a lot of the country, so it's just ramping up right now. Kids come back to the building next week, so it's going to get even busier. As far as finding where I'm at, I do write for the fantasy footballers. We're just getting ready, or we're winding down the off season, getting ready for the regular season. And in the regular season, I'm going to write a target report every week. That's what I've been doing. This will be my third year doing that. So wide receivers are definitely right up my alley. Do that every week. And then I'm also writing for Team Rise or Fall. This year, they're a newer site in the space that's kind of been blowing up lately. They focus a lot on the DFS side of things. So I'm going to do a Yahoo DFS article and a stacking article for them each week.
Right on. I'm a big fan of the stacking. Most stacks, I feel like, happen with the wide receiver. So this is going to be really awesome. I see that you're a Packer fan. I grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but I'm a huge Packer fan, lifelong. Since Sterling Sharp, a wide receiver.
Don't get me started on Sterling Sharp. Dude, he should be in his numbers. People don't realize how good his numbers were. And they were in the early 90s.
Yeah, way before the passing. Yeah, it's sad. The neck injury, I remember it. I cried as a kid.
I still show people those pictures when he played with that chin strap on the back of his helmet to keep his neck in place.
Yeah, he wanted to. The heart was there. I don't care what anybody says, man. It's but he's that kind of my Packers fans earmuff it for me. My first jersey was actually a Bears jersey, Walter Payton, when I was a little kid. But from about the time of 5 or 6, I've been
a Packer fan. Same age, I think I had a Bears lunchbox because I think we went to the store and they were like, Packers ones were sold out, and I was like, well, I want a football lunchbox. So that's what I have.
No, let me put up the camera. I got my old school X-Men lunchbox up there with me.
Nice.
And Monsters. And then there's Brett Favre, of course. True lifelong fan, man. But I owe it to Sterling Sharp. I became a fan. I had a friend whose family was from Wisconsin, so they were Packers fans, and naturally we just, growing up in DFW, I was born in the mid '80s, so the Cowboys were everything. But I was true. We had a lot of battles. It was great. I'll never forget. '96 and walking in. It was '97 when we won it, but. I was so happy just strolling through a bunch of Cowboys fans, and luckily it's been our way ever since, man.
Yeah, those early '90s teams, man. It seemed like every year was the Cowboys. Those Super Bowl run that they had, they knocked the Packers out every year.
Yeah, it was like I kind of consider a dynasty three conference championships with the Super Bowl, and in that case you have the Cowboys, you have the 49ers, you have the Bills, the Bills, you have the Packers, but those three in the NFC just dominated basically until 97, 98 when the AFC finally started gaining power again. But that good era, man, good memory. We didn't plan that at all. That was just natural talk. But yeah, let's get talking about wide receivers, man. It's I typically draft a running back first. I'm in way too many best ball leagues, which I've been stacking, and I've been noticing I've been going wide receiver a lot often, especially with the 3 wide receiver standard. That's kind of, it's the new age, it's the new standard, what they got going on with it. So, having said that, I would like to take a look at, with some of the wide receivers that eclipse the 1,000-yard marks, because there's several ways to make sure you grab a good wide receiver. With PPR, especially with volume, you can get touchdown monsters. You can get people that get a lot of yardage. Before we kind of talk into that, before we get into yards, touchdowns, targets, receptions, yards per game, and as far as that goes last year, do you have a strategy, or what do you employ at? What are you looking at specifically?
Yeah, just as far as drafting and wide receivers overall. So you mentioned best ball, and now that we're entering redraft, I have to kind of get a little bit out of the best ball mindset because in best ball, I'm like, all right, get one running back right away, maybe two, but usually it's like seventh, eighth round, and I'm like, I've got seven receivers already. Like, you
Yeah.
know, because you get those spike weeks and they're a little bit tougher to predict, but they're coming. In redraft, I do it. It all depends a lot on the draft spot, but I find myself coming with at least two, maybe three receivers in the first 4 rounds right now. Like to double hit running back right away if I can, but after the first 6 running backs, it's really hard to tell exactly where to go that way. And there are some of those, like there's a fair amount of elite receivers that are just a little bit more dependable on a week-to-week basis, I guess. Like they'll disappear sometimes, but yeah, you get those. You mentioned volume hogs. Like that's what I'm looking for more than anything is the volume as far as either targets. Targets are huge, or even yardage. Like yardage is just a little bit more predictable too. Those touchdown monsters are great to find, but outside of maybe like Devontae Adams and Mike Evans, I feel like are pretty consistent. Other than that, it's you might get 12, you might get 4.
No, it is. I threw a lot of darts at the board. That's kind of the way I like to give it a metaphor. I like to grab 2 or 3 that I feel really good about, and then I'll draft tight ends or quarterbacks or depth at running back or whatever the board's kind of giving me after that. But then I do have some pretty late. There was 19 wide receivers with 1,000 yards from Mike Evans all the way up to Stephon Diggs. Mike Evans had 1,006, Mari Cooper 1,100, Allen Robinson 1,250, DK Metcalf 1,303, Justin Jefferson 1,400, all the way to Stephon Diggs with 1,500 and 1,535. Do you see any of those on those lists that you see just a significant drop off? Looking at Tyreek Hill, DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley, Mari Cooper, Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, a lot of these guys, they really are. Like I was saying, these consistent guys. One that gives me a little pause, and I know Justin Jefferson had one of the probably the best rookie season ever, and you'd think he's going to grow, but a season coming off that strong, like there's not a lot. He's not a lot of room for him to go up from there. So I have not found myself getting him very often because I get it. I get that he is young and should be ascending, but the 1,400-yard season isn't something that is consistent. So, I just haven't found myself getting him a lot lately. DK Metcalf, he's been one of my favorite players. Like I think he actually does have room to go up from that 1,300. Allen Robinson, again, super consistent. DJ Moore, shockingly consistent. He's one of my favorite guys to draft this year. I see Brandon Cooks is on the list. I have no idea what to do with him.
I find him. I draft him late. Same with DJ Moore. I like when he grab him. I'm like, I'll wait one more round, particularly if I'm close to the turn or something. I'm like, he's just falling. Maybe that questionable tag. Maybe it's Sam Darnold. Maybe it's Robbie Anderson. I'm just like, there's no reason to fret with Moore.
Yeah, with DJ Moore, we do the My Guy series. So the ballers do their show, but then all the writers pick one too. And DJ Moore is my guy this year, man. I've been on him for a couple years now, but the whole not scoring touchdowns thing, like there's no reason he's not doing it. And I'm, in the little article I wrote up, just comparing like the I think it was either targets or receptions for every touchdown, and his is just like shockingly low. Like mathematically, this should not be happening. So going by that trend, I mean, I don't think he's going to be going out and scoring 14 touchdowns, but I could see him getting 8 or 9, which is going to, at his 1,200-yard floor, you would think that's a huge season.
No, yeah. I mean, Marshall's getting hyped, and I like him for a super late pick. But there's just no way that somebody's going to just come in, especially with the departure of Samuel, come in that offensive scheme and just demand the volume that he does. That's just not how that's not set up.
Yeah, I'm really rooting for Sam Darnold. Like I have no idea what's going to happen, but it's you hear the narrative. It's true. He's still super young, getting out of Adam Gase. He's talented. I mean, changing teams is always kind of sketchy, but I mean, he's got the potential for that whole offense is just through the roof.
I believe in Coach Rule. I believe in his philosophy and
Oh,
what he's
and
got
even
going.
more, yeah, Brady too, the OC.
Oh yeah, exactly. And it could be his last year there. He's going to be a
Yeah,
highly
yeah.
desired.
Mhm.
He's going to
Absolutely.
after this. I was going to say my guys. I think I've been really hanging my hat on Jarvis Landry. He's going super late. I think his
Yeah,
volume's going to be there. I think Baker's in a contract year, and I think Landry's the person he feels the most comfortable throwing it to. I mean, it's a crowded tight end room. You have two great running backs. OBJ, but I still believe in Landry. And I think he played last year with broken ribs, and I think people were seeing those numbers and expecting more of a decline. But he's always there. He's super reliable. He's Baker's go-to. He's in. I just think the volume's going to be there this year.
that's funny. I have not heard positive or negative. Like I feel like I haven't heard his name at all. Like during this, leading up to drafts and everything. That's a good point. Cleveland, I think their offense is going to be one of the best in the league. Everyone's talking about, and rightly so, but Tampa Bay is bringing all their starters back. Cleveland's bringing all their starters back, and you look up, just type in a list of top-rated offensive lines, or type into Google, and every list, Pro Football Focus and the Football Outsiders, and every publication I've seen has the Browns #1 this year. So Baker looked better last year. Offensive weapons, offensive line. Yeah, that's a good call. I think anybody in that offense has a chance to just go off this year.
Yeah, I think he's going to get close to 90 catches, which is great. And
Yeah.
for him to roll as my wide receiver 3, I'll roll with that every.
And he's
year.
had good touchdown history too. For a slot guy, didn't he lead the league one year with the Dolphins? It was something. If he didn't lead it, he was close.
I think so. I'm pretty sure he did. It was either him. He was tied or he led. I believe.
Yeah.
So and that was an Adam Gase offense, I believe.
Yeah, right.
No, yeah, but I just moving into the long tight ends, and I noticed a lot of tight ends in there. I hided them in black because we're not really talking about them, but they kind of sneak some touchdowns. And if that's your philosophy, I love DK Metcalf. I think he's going to have another 10+ years. It's interesting. Tyler Lockett and DK both had 10.
Yeah. Yep.
Adam Thielen's a touchdown monster. I think Devontae Adams has a chance to break the record because he did this on 14 games. He led the league on 14 games with 18 touchdowns. I think Aaron Rodgers is just as focused as before. The offense is still tailored for passing in the red zone. There's no reason Devontae Adams can't lead the league again.
Yeah, absolutely with Adams. With touchdowns are kind of hard to predict, it seems like, except for Devontae Adams. When he's out there, he is getting touchdowns. Adam Thielen, I'm worried about. Just 14 touchdowns. God, I think I listened to it today, and I don't know the stat off the top of my head, but it was on the Ballers podcast. They said something about receivers that had the amount of touchdowns he had, but then the smaller amount of yardage, it doesn't mesh so much. And I think I think he'll be fine, but 14 touchdowns is a lot. And outside of Devontae Adams and Mike Evans, it's hard to project 12 touchdowns for anybody.
I mean, his yardage per game was 98.1, good enough for the league last year as well. I think there's a chemistry there. I think people forget, as a Packer fan, I'll go back and watch every game if I don't get it,
Yeah.
And there's several games in the fourth quarter. Green Bay's, it's won. It's over. You're shutting down one defensive series, driving it long, kick a field goal. We're in double digits. That's it, Well,
and with missing games, wasn't there one of the games that he played a quarter or 2 quarters, and that's mixed in there,
Yeah. And he wanted to come back early, but he said the coaching staff did not allow him. He made some kind of tweet about it that was semi-sarcastic. It was he wanted to play, and I get it because he had a chance to break a record, and I think he realized it. But I don't see why
something about he wanted to come back a week or 2 earlier than they let him because they were winning, and they're like, no, get healthy.
Yeah, we're going to focus on the playoffs, rightfully so. He's my guy. I love him. He's one of my favorite stacks. I simply because I've had Rodgers as a keeper for going on the 4th year in my league of records. So we had somebody auto pick Devontae Adams. That's a 49ers fan and hated him, but would not trade him. So that's the worst, right? That's the worst. Right?
Yeah.
Let's go to a stat that I feel like gets a lot of attention from us in the media. And it's targets. I mean, you have to have them in the water as a fishing express. You got to have the hook or the lure in the water to catch anything. So Stephon Diggs had 166. Great. There's probably might be some reduction. I don't know with 17 games, to be honest with you, for fantasy purposes. You know,
that does mess things up a little bit.
no, yeah. Hopkins, maybe there's. I mean, I love more, but we'll get into that here in a second. Robinson, I honestly think Andy's an upgrade for him compared to many of his other quarterbacks.
Yeah,
and he still had the volume. And I think the Chicago Bears will have a bottom 10 defense, so they're going to have to air it out. They're going to have to do something. I think Allen Robinson's safe for it. And then you have Devontae still with 149, kind of rounds out the top four. You skip down. Robbie Anderson had 136.
That one always surprises me when I see that, and I get it, but it's always kind of like, oh yeah, Robbie Anderson did get a ton of targets last year.
As somebody that drafted him often, I dished him off at about week 9, week 8, and it was the perfect time. And he had a loaded first half of the season, which some wide receivers do. It's really interesting because some defenses, there's not – well, to bring back your example about Justin Jefferson, there wasn't tape on him. I mean, let you go to LSU, but he had to have NFL games.
I think LSU, like, he was nothing but a slot guy, and he obviously playing outside with the Vikings. He's doing pretty good at it, but yeah, that was kind of his big question heading into last year is, can he play outside?
Exactly. I mean, let's get down to some of these lower 100 guys. AJ Green, Devontae Parkes, there's Jarvis, Marquise Brown, a lot of people that like to put him down. AJ Brown down there with less than 110 targets and doing so much damage. It's very interesting. He called it, though. He said that before. And then Chase Claypool, Adam Thielen, another touchdown monster. What are your thoughts on targets last year and targets this year, Aaron?
Yeah, like you were saying, too, targets is definitely it's worth paying attention to because you will find those weeks where a guy gets targeted 10 times and only catches 4 of them. And still, it's like, maybe pay attention to that because they're, A, involving him in the offense, and then B, I hear this kind of echoed a lot, but it's very true. It's like targets are earned. It's like you have to run the route, get open, quarterback sees you, quarterback throws it just to get that target thrown your direction. So I think that's such a key stat to follow. And it's gained a lot of traction lately, but that wasn't something that you would see. Some box scores you still don't even see it. Like, I'm not even sure if it's in the standard ESPN or NFL box score when you first look at it. It might be now, but anyways, like the top guys, Diggs, Hopkins, Allen, Robinson, Adams, even Keenan Allen, with 17 games, lock those guys up for 150 targets if they're healthy. I think Hopkins is going to be in for a really big year because I think that volume is going to be there, and it goes kind of back to that, lucky or unlucky the way the touchdowns break. I think he had 4 last year or something, and that just seems like that's not going to happen again. But yeah, some of the lower down guys right around that 100 area, I love these second-year players. Chase Claypool, that surprised me when I got back to him this offseason. I was like, he got 100 targets last year? Yeah. And again, he should only be going up and ascending at this point. Even T. Higgins, I think he's kind of taking that bump a little bit down. People have the Jamar Chase fears, but if that Cincinnati offense is what they want it to be, there could be 3 guys on that team with 100 targets, And then one of my favorites as far as young guys is just Jerry Jeudy. I think, dude, the way he runs routes and gets separation, I know he had, I did a write-up on him. It must have been in June or July. And I went back and he had all these drops. I think 6 of them came in one game. And that's really bad. But also the rest of the season, he wasn't dropping the ball that often. And he had the second lowest catchable pass rate in the NFL. So I'm hoping Teddy Bridgewater really kind of locks into him. And he is a talented dude, and that could be a kind of a sleeper pick, if you will, for sure.
No, yeah, that's a very interesting point. I live in Colorado, so I've definitely the soft spot from the Super Bowl 32 defeat is all but wore out, and I have a slight affiliation for the Broncos, and I wish them well. But Jerry Jeudy, my goodness, man, and I've kind of just said the same thing, just it's going to be I feel like Teddy Bridgewater is not going to mess up, and he's going to put together drives when you need him. And that defense should be really clicking late in the year. So I think that's what they're
Defense,
counting.
yeah.
You
I
know,
mean,
that's
it's true. The team seems to be just a quarterback away from being a really good team.
no,
So I
yeah. I
hope he
just
catches that guy.
you know, but I mean, they're not just going to blow away a lot of teams too. Jerry Judy is
Yeah.
going to be an excellent grab. He's going for, and most times I see late round 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6, and I think he's an excellent wide receiver too. He's a great wide receiver 1. Uh, he's not going to be there for your flex, but then not at
Yeah.
the rate that he's busting out.
Yeah.
I think he's amazing. I think it's a wonderful call as well. The receptions kind of follow as you would expect, kind of right along with it. Stephon Diggs, Andre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, Allen Robinson, Tyler Lockett had the 100 mark again. Calvin Ridley at 90. You know, there's some interesting names in the wide receiver department there. I think Cole
Yeah.
Beasley's a name we skipped over. I think he has a really good relationship with Josh Allen. I think like they have good chemistry. I just the COVID thing kind of scares me, to be honest with me, over there, because he's so outspoken with it. But I just think he's also, I mean, his targets are there, his receptions are there. So if you're in a PPR league, there's no reason not to target him at where he's going at right now. You know.
Definitely, yeah. There's a couple things that so again, Tyler Lockett. Again, that's one of those quiet seasons. It's like he blew up blew up so early in so many games, and kind of the whole Seattle offense slowed down. But I mean, 100 catches is a lot. I mean, what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 7th on the list, whatever he is. Like, it was like it has to be one of the quietest 100 catch seasons that I can remember. Super interesting seeing Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods like back to back, and I'm really curious to see how that shakes out. I've never been the biggest Matthew Stafford fan, and I'm kind of like going against the grain on that because he's getting hyped up a lot, and I'm like, yeah, he's fine, but I don't see him as like this world beater quarterback. But on the other side, I also see Sean McVay's offense and what could be. So I get it. I'm very curious to see how that team just functions in general.
Yeah, I have the Rams finishing 3rd in their own division. I'm the same with you. Like I think like now that we've had time to reflect on it, I think Megatron made Matthew Stafford. And it hurts me to say that because he played high school like right down the road from me. And but it's just like, man, dude, as somebody that's an NFC North like viewer and fan, I've just seen him not be clutch when he needs to, and I've seen like you just can't validate too much. Like, how is Carson Wentz and Jared Goff, quarterbacks that were 1 and 2 in their draft, led their teams to Super Bowls? I mean, if you consider Carson Wentz is like 12 games, I think they beat the Rams the game he exited actually. You know,
Yeah,
so it's like I think he could have went on just as great as run as Nick Foles in the playoffs. Yet they get traded. You know, they didn't make the grade, but Matthew Stafford gets a pass somehow. And I'm just like,
and I mean, I think he's exciting. I'll give him that. Like, he's got the huge arm. He scrambles around. He makes fun plays. But like all of his best receivers have always been like just contested catch monsters. You said Megatron, even Kenny Galladay, even Marvin Jones. Those are guys that you throw the ball in their area and they're going to go up and get it. He hasn't.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's very true. I mean, I think we have the same sentiment. It's definitely not popular when I look at the odds. They are super high on Matthew Stafford. So,
wherever he's going in, like I'm not going to have him in any league because it's just he's going in the top 10. I think. Like I don't see it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Same sentiments. Just to wrap up the info sheet, we just have the yards per game. Not a super important statistic, but just shows consistency. And I think a point that we haven't brought up, and I think something that gets overlooked, especially like if people in redraft, if you're in these 30-second, 45-second, 1 minute, you got to make a decision. And you're looking at your queue, which if you don't have a queue, you should have one loaded. I recommend that at all times, just for a few positions, just so you don't get Cam Akers or Michael Thomas or something like that.
Yeah.
But all these, if you'll notice, all these quarterbacks all these wide receivers we're about to list off, they have great quarterbacks. And I'll go ahead and mention Travis Kelce. So in order, they're Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Travis Kelce, Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, Justin Jefferson, Julio Jones, Tyreek Hill, and DK Metcalf. I say all that to say, when in doubt, grab a quarterback or grab a wide receiver with a good quarterback. I just think it's a kind of a pro tip. Because your good quarterback's more than likely going to have better accuracy, know what to do in a panic situation, and just help your wide receiver in general. But your thoughts on
those guys, if you look at those guys too, I mean, I guess you could look at it as kind of like a chicken and egg situation here, but they are all like the best fantasy receivers. Like I don't have it in front of me, but if you look at last year's fantasy finishes, like that's probably pretty close to what the list is, because they are clearly the number one target on their team, except for, maybe DK, you could argue with Lockett, and then Tyreek and Kelce both being on the list is ridiculous. Yeah. Both those guys putting up over 85 and 95 yards a game or close to that. And it'll be really interesting. We haven't really talked much about Calvin Ridley yet, and he's a guy that I was kind of slow to get on the Calvin Ridley train. I was like, yeah, I mean, he's fine. He seems okay. And I'm nothing really like screams about him, but he's just keeps putting up numbers. And now with Julio actually being gone, like I'm not a projection expert by any means, but I run a couple of projections every year. And the first time I did it this year, I'm like, wait, Calvin Ridley came out as wide receiver 2? That can't be right. But I mean, he's going to get targeted a ton. I can't imagine Atlanta, running the ball a whole lot and trying to salt away games with Mike Davis. So, I think Calvin Ridley could be, obviously, he could be a top 5, top 4, top 3 receiver this year.
Especially if you're of the belief that I am, that the Falcons are not going to be that good. There should be a lot of garbage time. I mean, you're going to have Patterson, Gage, and Pitts essentially challenging him for receptions. Hayden Hurst, too, if they line Pitts more into like a traditional wide receiver, which is what I
think they are going to do that a lot. I just was looking at it the other day with Arthur Smith there, Mr. 2 tight end sets, and then it wasn't a great season by any means, but Hayden Hurst, he was a tight end 9 last season. Like, yeah, he didn't win you many weeks, but you could put him in there and he'd be just fine. I think, as gross as it might be, like, there's going to be some Hayden Hurst weeks. Like, he's going to be in some Millie Maker lineup because he's going to get 2 touchdowns and no one's going to have him in their lineup.
Yeah, and it'd be the hottest waiver wire pickup.
Yeah.
But no, he's one of my last scoops and best balls. If I've only had like 1 or 2 tight ends, I'm like, oh, there he is. I'll go snag him. Six touchdowns, 500 something yards, 600 something yards, I believe, last year. I'll roll with that every day. Man. And I just wanted to highlight. Maybe you kind of mentioned your guy. I mentioned my guy, Jarvis. I have a lot of faith in him, volume, especially in PPR leagues. But I wanted to highlight some rookies. I wrote them on the whiteboard. Just turn it away real quick. I'm going to take Amari Rodgers from you just because I have a lot of faith in him. I reached for him, honestly. I've been reaching for him in a lot of drafts. I'm not somebody that puts like a huge lot of weight in ADP, but I think a lot of people do. So in some ways, it still influences how I draft. And he was picked as like the offensive playmaker. Devin Funchess just went out. Hello. So you're going to have Marquise Valdez.
I'm really hoping for Devin Funchess to like have a comeback season. I really was.
I think he would have been the tipping point. Well, I think bad coaching lost the Packers the NFC Championship game. You don't defer and give it to Brady and then give him the ball to end the game. That's disaster in my opinion. But I think Funchess could have helped in that fourth quarter when we weren't putting together first downs after the turnovers. Excuse me. I was like, we just need a big guy that can just catch it, and that is a loss. But
and then he comes in the preseason game, just all of a sudden showing out like that.
Oh yeah, it was. I was signed. I was happy when they signed him. I say we a lot sometimes when I'm talking about Panthers, no, it's a day. But to bring it back to Rodgers, I've already seen him used in the gadget play. On this podcast, I highly encourage using special team statistics, which is punt returns, kick returns. They haven't eliminated it yet, and it's fun. And you should be incorporated into your league, and he's going to get those.
It makes it more fun. That's my favorite league that I'm in has receive or return yards in it, and it gives you that extra option where like a guy like last year, or every year, like you can put Cordero Patterson in your lineup. That's just fun.
No, he's a true flex in this format, especially we have 16 teams. So some of those like week 7 this year, when you have several teams on bye week, Cordell Patterson could be viable coming off. I'm pretty sure they have a week 6 bye. Like that's a very valuable person. But if you're not giving kick return yards, it's hard. And I feel like rookies are specifically brought in a lot of times. Like, yeah, Gainwell, you're going to be our running back, but until you become our starter, you're going to return kicks. More we want you. Yeah. When you're more, we want you to be a key wide receiver. But until that moment, you're going to return punts and help us win the field possession battle.
Look at rookie year Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Would he have been made without that? It adds a lot of elements. So if you're not doing that, make sure you do that. But Amari Rodgers is going to be doing that. He's going to be used in the jet sweep. I'm not really sold on Marquise Valdez-Scantling being more than just like kind of more of a deep threat. I think they're going to rotate him. They went and drafted him. He comes from a winning program. I think he's going to be an excellent fit. You can get him late. Don't expect him early. Like for best balls, especially like best ball drafts or even redraft leagues with deep benches, grab him late. Sit on him.
He can be your last pick.
Yeah, like sit on him. Wait, you got a wide receiver on your bench. You're going to need more than one. Just sit on him right there. I'll say some more. I like Smith because of his ADP. He's been dropping. I've been rolling him with as my first bench receiver or my wide receiver 3 in several leagues. More we talked about Marshall, Collins. And I'm not as big a fan as Waddle as Eskridge or Bateman, but those are kind of my I like Smith more, Rodgers, Marshall, and Collins. But what are your thoughts on any of those?
So I'll preface this as saying I'm a little biased because Packers are my team, but my dad is a Dolphins fan, and I kind of grew up with them as my second team. You talked about your first jersey before. My first jersey was a Dan Marino jersey.
There you go. Nice.
And I do now have a Tua jersey, and I think Tua is going to just take a big step forward this year. And part of it, the whole point of what I'm trying to get to here is I think Jalen Waddle, I don't know if he's going to have the biggest year as a rookie. I think it'll be fine and relevant. But I think looking forward a couple of years, like he might be that dominant speed guy that you love to see. Jalen Waddle, I've got him in a couple dynasty leagues, and I am looking forward to see kind of – I hope that, it's that narrative again with the college quarterback, with college receiver, they played together, have a little bit of chemistry, and I'm excited to see where that goes. I'm a big Jalen Waddle fan.
Okay, nice. No, yeah, I'm not as high too. I think that's one of the first takes that we've disagreed on, so to speak. So I just don't know. But the truth is, I was really high on Preston Williams being in Colorado. I got to see a couple of his college games. I was like, oh man, he's got the size. He's got it all. But these injuries.
So he looked good when he was on the field, like that rookie year, and then he got hurt, and then I think he's already been hurt this year. I think I don't know if he's back practicing yet, but
I mean, and Parker's he's like almost as bad as Sammy Watkins. I mean, he's good. You just don't know. I mean, I wrote him his one good year, so I enjoy I enjoy him for fantasy. And he falls late. I mean, you can roll with the true wide receiver 1 in your wide receiver 3, sometimes your flex spot. He is
one of my highest rostered best ball guys because he is so late, and I'm like, well, he's going to get red zone targets. I guarantee that. And again, that's sort of he's a good best ball guy because he's going to disappear for weeks, but he's going to put up a couple big weeks, and I'll take him.
Yeah, you need those ceiling weeks. That's just the bottom line in best ball. And I have him as well. As far as that wide receiver core goes, I have more shares of Parker than I do Waddle. But that's interesting. I think he has every potential. I'm hanging out with a lot of UK guys, and there's quite a few Dolphins fans actually, and they're super high on Waddle. They're super high on Tua. So it's interesting. That's the beauty of fantasy football, I think, is to have the belief in different people.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm huge on KJ Hamler as well, and I don't, and a lot of people aren't. He's one of my sleepers, but I think he's a football player. Anybody that can come in and play quarterback or do what you need him to do, play special teams, they're a football player.
Kind of in that Amari Rodgers same kind of mold.
Yeah, I think. Yeah,
I'm curious about what. Sorry to kind of sidetrack, but even Tim Patrick is still there too. It's just Denver's such an interesting team.
Yeah, his catch percentage on his radius is one of the highest in the NFL. Yeah. Tim Patrick. So I think it's very interesting as far as that goes. But And then I don't know how you feel about Smith or Bateman or Marshall or Collins or any of those guys as well. Any thoughts on them? Or
Yeah, Smith, definitely big on Smith. The only thing that worries me a little bit is, you mentioned before, like, look at the good quarterbacks and take their receivers. And I don't know, as far as throwing the ball, how good Jalen Hurts is going to be. Like, I think he's got to be better. But yeah, Devontae Smith is definitely a value where he's at. I think, when he sprained his knee or whatever a couple of weeks ago, just his ADP just crashed. And now he's already back playing in preseason games. It's like, guys, I know he's skinny, but he's all right. He's going to be fine. I like him. I really had high hopes for Bateman, and maybe I shouldn't overreact too much, but he's going to miss time now. I was getting very excited about hopefully seeing Baltimore pass the ball a little bit more with Bateman as that true route runner, that precision guy, that mid-range guy, and then having Marquise Brown in that secondary type role to just allow him to maybe not have as much focus on him defensively, and maybe just letting Lamar, because Lamar's not as bad of a thrower as people think he is. Like, people think that Lamar Jackson runs all the time. Oh, he must not be a good thrower. He's not the best, but he's a legit NFL quarterback.
And an MVP. That threw 30-something plus touchdowns. So not easy to do. Interesting. All right, I just we'll close up the show because I always like to kind of put what it against like these consensus bookies, because they obviously are trying to nail it pretty exact. So Devontae Adams is the highest I can find with 11 touchdowns. I mean, that's his under is -120, his over is 110. I feel like he's going to get way over 11. I don't know why, but I feel like that's an easy log.
Yeah, when it comes to betting, it's so I don't love going overs, and when it comes to touchdowns, I'm like, double-digit touchdowns is not easy. But if there's one guy I'm going to do it, it's going to be Devontae Adams because he's probably not throwing 48 again, but it would be shocking if Aaron Rodgers does not throw 30 to 35 touchdowns. And if he throws that many, nobody else on the team is going to be a lock for double digits. It's like he's going to have a third of Aaron Rodgers' touchdowns at least, wherever they are. So yeah, that's one that I would go over on that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love the unders as well. But it's just Devontae, red zone offense is built to pass it once they're close to the red zone.
It's just their chemistry. You saw in the playoffs, the play where it's like, oh, hey, just go in motion. We'll get Jalen Ramsey off you, right goal line touchdown, just like that easy.
Yeah, it was literally how they did it. It's amazing.
Make it look easy at least.
No, yeah, I mean they have the chemistry, which is the ultimate element. I'm trying to look at some more. Let's see. That's a tight end. We'll stay away from those. A lot of tight ends. Here's my guy, Jarvis Landry. 4.5. The under is at +100. The over is at -130.
4.5 is another one. We talked about that before, saying Jarvis Landry is a sneaky touchdown guy. I don't know what his career numbers are or whatever, but again, he found me another one where I'm like, I don't love going overs, but that seems like a pretty good chance to go over. I think, and we talked about this too, I think Baker's in for a big year. I think he's a sneaky late quarterback guy you can roll with. I like over on that.
Jerry Jeudy, 4.5. Over, -150. So the bookies feel like it's almost a lock from what they're telling you because the under's +120. I think Noah Fant could steal some touchdowns. I'm not sure Williams is going to steal a lot of touchdowns. I'm not sure Gordon will. Sutton demands red zone attention. He's so big. But Jeudy could get 5 touchdowns over 40 yards apiece.
Yeah. That's what too. I'm not even thinking about here is the fact that it's 17 games. Like that just one more chance to get a touchdown or two. That's tough because Teddy's fine, but he's not a big touchdown volume guy. I think with the coaching staff there, Vic Fangio, the way they want to win games is running and defense. So that's tough. I think I would just stay away from it. But if I had to, I'd probably go with the over, just because I'm rooting for Jeudy.
All right, here's an interesting one. That's a name we haven't brought. I think we said his name once, maybe twice. Marvin Jones, 5.5. Overs at -130, unders at unders at +100. I think that's about right. I think 5-6. That's like spot on.
Yeah, I think I would go under on that one just because there's so much of an unknown with that team, and I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be great. I think he's a value late right now because Lance and Fields are getting so much attention. Like Trevor Lawrence is going to be pretty good, but we don't know how that receiving tree or that target tree is going to break down with DJ Shark and LaVisca. Well, they got some other the huge tight end, huge receiver.
ETN had to be a big part of their passing game.
Yeah. I'm wondering how that's going to affect Chenault. But as a rookie, how many touchdowns is Lawrence legitimately going to throw? And I don't trust Urban Meyer in the NFL first year either.
So. No, yeah, I said that on a podcast actually coming out tomorrow. I talk about Urban Meyer and how I don't think he's ready for that big switch. I really don't.
Yeah.
I don't think it's good. Actually, to talk about week 1 real quick, and you can kind of close it up if you have any thoughts on week 1. I think Houston is going to win week 1, and they had the lowest win total for projections at 4. But I do think Houston has a chance to beat Jacksonville week 1 because Lovie Smith. I'm a very defensive-minded person. I'm IDP Iggy. Lovie Smith he's coming back to the NFL, but I don't think he's going to take that long to get reacquainted with some of the playmakers he has, even without J.J. Watt. I think Merciless is going to bring pressure. I think they'll be able to control the tempo with Tyrod Taylor in that backfield. And I think Trevor Lawrence is going to either have a couple sacks or a couple picks or possibly both. So
it's one of those things. Houston is, I get it because we have all summer long to talk about this, but it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, they probably aren't going to be good. They're not going to go out and win the division, but maybe they're not going to be as terrible as everybody thinks. And it's not like Jacksonville's a world beater either. They had the number 1 pick for a reason. They won a game last year. So yeah, I like that call. I would not be surprised at all if Houston came out and won that game first week.
No, yeah, that's it. I think I think David Johnson is going to have a pass catching touchdown. He's predominantly the third down back, which I wish I would have known that earlier because I was getting him in quite a bit of best balls last month.
But I avoided that backfield like the plague, man. I was like, I have no idea what's going on there.
I don't know why they signed so many. David Johnson had a great year, but new management, people want to run things different. I get that, so to each their own. But Aaron, any closing remarks before we get out of here, sir?
No, I'm just, like I said, this is the best time of year, man. Fantasy football drafts ramping up. Excited to get going. All my weekly stuff with the Ballers and Team Rise or Fall. Looking forward to, just full-blown fantasy football and just NFL season, man. Just, 2 weeks now? 2 weeks from now, we'll be getting ready to watch the first game.
Yeah, I can't wait for Thursday, Cowboys at Bucks. I think it's going to be quite a bit closer than people anticipate. Any closing remarks on the Packers? I'm a little biased. I always have them going to the Super Bowl. I think I've had them going for like the last 10 or 11 years. But what are your thoughts on it?
So their offense is going to be great. I don't know why it wouldn't be. We don't talk a lot of defense here, but I think their defense is going to be much improved. I think they're kind of an underrated unit when you think of the top defenses in the league. I'm like, they could get to that level.
No, yeah, I think they have. Somebody that focuses on defense. They had a top 10 defense last year. That's why I really thought we were going to go to the Super Bowl. I'm not somebody that bashes on Kevin King. I think it was a blown assignment. They probably should have been in like a cover 3. They should have had 2 safeties back there or something to help at least. But I think Gary's going to be super improved. The pass rush will be much better in that sense. Maybe we can find a reliable inside linebacker. I'm
excited about this Cortness Stokes that we drafted.
Oh yeah, exactly. No,
him and Jair is so good.
I think we have a great, and Sullivan's been playing a lot. I think Amos and Savage are kind of the best, two of the best. It's an underrated defense. I went back and looked at that 2010 championship. They were winning games like they lost to the Lions 7-3. They beat the Jets 6-0. That's what it's going to take. We're going to have a good defense, but Packers are my pick, man. So go Pack, go.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, y'all, thank y'all for timing in. Remember the podcast. Check out Iggy's Fantasy and Medicine. Go check out Aaron's great work. Obviously, he didn't get to the fantasy footballers by not doing anything great, so that's quite the achievement. And you guys take care, and I appreciate it. Hopefully, I can have you on later, man. Maybe we can even do Packers Monday night game or something.
Love to come back.
You know? All right. Well, y'all take care, and thank you for listening.
All right, man. See ya.
Later.